friends. This week we're going to be going through an in-depth tutorial on how to utilize your layer masks, okay? This is our before image, and once we're done, our photo is going to look like this. So it's a little bit of a deeper, moodier edit. But let's go ahead and get started. With this tutorial, I will be working with the Bee's Knees Work Light set, okay? As with all my photos, I'm going to start with Flawless Base. And this works with sharpening our photographs, lightening the shadows, evening the midtones. It's just basically an all-in-one action here just to give your photo a good base. You'll notice with all of my actions, I'm moving the opacity down to 0. And then I'll just work that up to where I think the action works best, and this helps me from over-editing an image. Okay, so I like this at 41%. Now with the Flawless Base, I'm just going to keep the effect on the entire photograph because we want the entire photograph to be affected with this particular action. Just to point out, this white box to the right of the folder for your action is a layer mask, okay? So this one, again, we're going to keep as is. Let's go ahead and move on to the next action that we'll be using our layer mask on. Flawless Burn. I'm going to press play. Paint with a soft white brush over areas of your photo you wish to darken and contour. I'm going to press continue. Now, real quick here with layer masks, always remember that black conceals and white reveals. Okay, notice with our Flawless Base action, it is white, and as you had noticed, the entire effect had been revealed. I can press the little eyeball here on and off. The entire effect is revealed on the photograph. Now with this one, I press the little eyeball and nothing happens. That's because the layer mask is already it's built in to be concealed, so I can paint it on exactly where I want it to be. So it's already concealed. As you can see, the layer mask is black. I do need a white brush. White is my foreground color. I've got the brush selected, and I'm just going to go ahead and brush over the background. I want the background to be a little bit deeper and richer than it is at the moment. Okay, now with just for time's sake with this tutorial, I'm just going to kind of breeze by with some of the editing. Normally I would take a little bit more time and being more precise with my brush. And there we go. That looks about right. Get a little bit closer to her here. Okay, so notice now I'm looking at my layer mask. There's quite a bit of white around the edges. The middle is still black, and that's where our subject is. So I'm going to click on the eyeball, on and off. Notice how our subject is still the same tone. The background, however, is darker because I had revealed the effect around her. Okay, so moving on, I'm going to run another action. We're going to run Pish Posh and press play. Okay, so we're going to do something a little bit different here. Now this one has played. I like the color that I'm getting here on the photograph, a little bit strong. So I'm just going to take it down to about 29%. Okay, now when you get a color pop with any actions that you're running, sometimes it might oversaturate the subject's skin a bit, and I do tend to take an action or an effect off of a subject's skin quite a bit throughout my editing. So you'll have to make a decision. Do you want to take all of it off or just a little bit? Sometimes it'll look a little bit natural if you take all of the effect off. So I'm going to take 80% off. This is the opacity for my brush. Just going to make my brush a little bit smaller here. And also, I've got black as the foreground color. Remember, black conceals. So I want to conceal the effect showing up on her skin. Okay. Notice as I'm editing as well, you see the black pop up here on the layer mask. Something else that you can use, and this will show you all the mistakes I'm making here, but you press the backslash button. It should be under your backspace button on your keyboard. And notice the red showing up on my photograph. That's where I painted. So if you have to see exactly where you're painting, it makes you feel more comfortable to know that you haven't missed any spots, or to know that you're doing things nice and neat. You can always press that button and see exactly where you're painting. As I said, you can see all the mistakes I'm making. I'm getting in and out of the lines here. I'm kind of doing that on purpose right now. I want to show you something else that you can do as well to fix a mistake. So there we go. I'm just going to go out of the lines a little bit over here. Layer masks are awesome because if you do make a mistake, like I'm going to get white as my foreground color here, and I am just going to paint that away. Notice how I'm removing the effect that I painted on earlier. There we go, and I can go over and get that, as neat as I need to. I'm going to press the backslash button, and I can see exactly what I've painted off now. Notice how the color is applied to the background. It doesn't really affect her skin so much. Okay, so moving on here, I want to have a little bit of a hazy light effect come in from the corner of my photograph. Now this one is pretty cool. I'm going to run a little bit of a hazy action. I've got here Beech Nut. I'm going to play it. Now again, I don't want this applied to my entire photograph. By default, it will be applied to my entire photograph, as you can see here. Okay, I want it kind of shining in from the right-hand corner here. So I'm going to grab my gradient tool. Right up here, I'm going to click on the drop down, make sure the top left selection has been selected. Okay. And I also, of the square icons right here, you want to make sure the top left is selected here as well. And I'm just going to click and drag up to about where I want my light to end here. So again, I've got black set as my foreground color. Notice how all of the action from about here down is now hidden. I'm going to press the little eyeball, and I've got a little bit of light showing up at the top right hand corner. Now, because I have the top left hand selected here, I am able to, if I didn't like that specific selection, I can go click and drag again. I can click and drag as many times as I want, and it's just going to change my selection. So if you don't get it right the first time, don't worry about it. You can always try again. There we go. I'm just going to leave that right there. And again, I can take the opacity down and kind of work my way up to where I want that to be. And I'll keep that right at 41%. Okay, so moving on, I am going to add some clarity to the image. Now, I don't want the clarity applied to the entire image. I'm going to take this down a little bit here. There we go. Okay, I only want the clarity applied to my subject to give her a little bit of a pop. Okay, so I am going to, it would be easier for me just to paint it on to my subject instead of having to paint it off of the entire background. So I'm going to conceal the entire effect here by pressing Control-I. Okay, and that just filled my entire layer mask with black. So the entire effect has now been concealed. I'm going to grab my brush again, get white as the foreground color. I'm going to reveal this specific effect. I'm going to bring the brush opacity back up to 100%. I'm just going to paint over her. And the clarity is now being applied to just my subject. And this is it's really a preference. You can always you could have just painted it off of the background in the beginning. It's easier for me just to paint it onto the subject itself. So before, after, notice how she's getting a little bit of a pop there. I really like it. Okay, and there's one last step that I'm going to take here. We've gone ahead and run all the actions. I do want to show you kind of what this is going to look like without using actions. So just clicking on the little circle down at the bottom of your layers panel, I'm going to select, we'll do photo filter. We can just keep it right here at the top default warming filter. And I'm just going to bring that up a bit and exit out of there. Notice how it pops up with a built-in layer mask, just like the actions do. Okay, if for some reason you don't have a layer mask already built in, right beside the original circle that we had clicked on is a square with the circle inside of it. You can click on that. And notice how I just got a second layer mask here. I don't want the second layer mask. That's just in case you hadn't had one to begin with. But that's how you add it. Okay, so it works exactly the same way. Her skin is way, way, way warm here. I do want to wipe that off. So I'm actually going to take 100% of it off. And I've got my brush selected. I'm just going to up. And I have white as the foreground color, so I'm going to switch that to black to conceal the effect here. And again, I'm just going through this really super quick. There we go. Okay, I'm going to take the effect itself down a little bit. Okay, so there's our image from start to finish, showing you all the different ways and how you can utilize layer masks. The gradient one is pretty cool, especially for shining light into your images. Remember, black conceals and white reveals, and you really, the sky's the limit with layer masks.